I was sitting at recess, and we were playing Magic cards, and it was early enough when Magic cards was first announced that they still had the ante, so you had to ante a card to play it, and then you would either win the card or not, and that was what the stakes were of the game. You bid a card, and you win or lose. And I remember the huge uproar of, it's a gambling game. It's banned from all schools. So my entire school district banned Magic because of gambling. And, I grew up in, a little hippie town of the northwest corner of Oregon, Eugene, and it was lovely, but, no one understood really what that was. They just assumed that we were all just throwing dice against the wall and collecting chips, But, that was the first introduction. I had friends who introduced me to it, and we played Magic, and we played Pokemon, and we basically got into some of the smaller board games. Hero Quest was my first, RPG, kind of telling a story while playing a board game, and it was awesome. I got my hat on, I made all my friends dress up, and we played Hero Quest, and it was kind of the beginning of, Imagination Land. King of the Nerds was one of those situations where that show was a little special. They were sincere. They weren't oh, look at the funny nerds, boogity boogity boogity. They really made us look like people who were just really enjoying the stuff that we enjoy. They wanted us to focus on our obsessions and have that be something that's sincere and beautiful rather than something that's stupid and funny, right? So we were all terrified at first because we didn't know how we were going to be portrayed. We don't have control over the editing. But once it was done, it was just I love this. I want to keep doing it. I enjoyed my time. The only person who's going to stop me is me at this point. So either I need to make a choice now and double down, or I can just go back to my regular life and I can keep doing what I'm doing that doesn't involve gaming and be okay with that. But I chose to take the sacrifices and spend every night and weekend that I could to keep perpetuating that. So here's the thing about making content around board games. It's fun to play a board game, right? It should be fun to watch people play board games. The content that works, that I've felt that's really endemic, that people really relate to, is, surprise, the relatable parts of the show. It's really great to watch someone play a board game and win, all right? But it's much more lovely to watch people play board games and have fun, even if that means they're losing. When I sit down and play a game with friends, I don't really care if I win or lose. Well, I do care. I do want to win. Everyone wants to win. But at the end of the day, it's about the time that you spend with your friends that's more important than just the black and white win or lose results. And I think GNS has done amazing in that they want to tell the story about the people who play the games. The responsibility, I think, in Game the Game is simply to show that everybody can play board games and have a good time. And that there are so many games out there that there's something for everybody. And that jumping into a game is not as scary as you might think, no matter what size the box is. All of these really tactics that you would use to make a good show for the RPG world are also great things that you bring at your regular table. You don't speak over others. When you are playing, you are taking your time to do something great for your character, but then you try to highlight the moments that your other players are going with. I would say that it's definitely made my games better. I'm much more aware as a player of taking care of my friends and making sure that they're having fun. And the amount of stories I've heard of people being excluded, not because they're being jerks, but just because they're so excited to play and they forget about other people at the table. It's common, and these are not malicious people. Everyone in LARP cultures, honestly, the best ones are super good about passing the ball. Everyone has their moment to shine, but when it's not your time to be a PC, you are an NPC to somebody else's story. That's awesome. When you can see that kind of synergy in a table, it's beautiful. And it's one of the reasons, people who are actors and improvisers that come into the world of role-playing games, it comes very naturally to them because they have a little bit of that training. And, the one thing that I will say, it is nice to not have to be aware of the pacing of having the camera in front of you, and you can take 4 hours and go get a snack and pick up and, versus like, okay, we're here, we're shooting. GNS, they are really good about taking care of their people. It's a family. They take care of each other, and they just give us a table in which to play these games, and we do our best to try to like have fun and tell a good story. I definitely like to have my players participate into the story just as much as I do, and especially when you're doing abstract horror RPGs like Dread, all right? Oftentimes your players will come up with more terrifying things than you ever will if you give them the permission to do so. You can have a really concise story and you can get from your point A to point B as far as you prep, but still let your players have a whole lot of choice. I say let them pick the wallpaper. Let them pick the item they pick up. You make your bullet points of where you hope the world's going to go to, but if you have an idea of just the why, like why are these characters here? Why are these NPCs here? And, once they start making choices, then you just react, and it's a dance. It's a lovely dance. The key is communication. You can't assume anything. And you need to have strong conversations with your players about what they want. Even if you're just doing a fun dungeon crawl with friends, I can't even tell you some of the stories I've heard about just people not being on the same page about what kind of game they want to play, and it really impacts their game, So if everybody wants to play a sweet dungeon crawler where they kill monsters and pick up loot and they level up by the end of it, that's awesome. But if even one person in that group, doesn't want to play that and wants to have a more like deep, intrinsic story that like involves character arcs and backstory, like that person's not going to have a good time, And it would be better that they know that. And it might be better that if they communicate that in the beginning, because for all you know, these other friends that are going to be doing a dungeon crawler, they might be perfectly happy to do a character arc story as well too. But you won't know until you ask. If you spend so much time trying to get a game together and you finally get a game together and you want to play, like it's so easy to get overexcited and to just dive into it, and you may not be fully aware of like what's happening around you with other people's emotions. They can be things that ruin friendships. They can be things that hurt, the people who you honestly care about. And a lot of times these are things that we aren't even aware of because we're so just happy to be playing a game and happy to be in this space. We're all human beings who have opinions and emotions that need to be acknowledged, even in our sense of play. So when you have someone new at the table who does not know the system, it's a very unique skill, and it comes down to just how you teach. And it's tough because sometimes when you're wanting to play with your friends and you're past that kind of like learning stage, you don't want to go back to that learning stage and you just want to play. But that experience isn't worth ruining someone else's entry point into the hobby. The internet brought everybody together and made everybody accessible at all times. You could get into a lobby with 24 people in 5 minutes and play a 15-minute game. Things like WoW come out where there's, hundreds of thousands of people all playing in the same space together. The difficulties of that kind of world started to emerge their head as well. You have a screen that essentially is protecting you from people, but it also obscures you from people as well. And I think board gaming and role-playing games are making a comeback in a big way because we want that honest connection with folk again. We want to sit down and we want to look into somebody's eyes and we want to say, what do you want to do? If you talk to your players like they are the most important people in the room right now, that will generate a level of honesty that people don't encounter with on a day-to-day basis. We're very, very used to like casual conversation. We check our phones, we look around. We're talking, but we're not talking. But looking at someone and telling yourself, this is the most important thing right now. I'm here, you're here, we're having this moment. I mean, that, I can't think of nothing more honest than that. You know what I mean? Even if you're telling them how they're dying right now.